we are going to start by debating, well, what I think we'd have to call the mess in the Midlands. And it's hard to work out where to start at the moment. Wolves, Villa and Leicester are the bottom three of the Premier League right now. But let's start with Aston Villa. Huge club, worst start for 25 years. The fans are restless. Darren, pretty uninspiring transfer window. Bednarek on loan and Den Donker. Manchester City at home today and then Leicester away. Can Steven Gerrard survive 2 defeats?
I don't think the game today against Manchester City will determine his future, because you are talking about one of the best sides in the country, if not in the whole of Europe. So I think the Leicester game is the one where if they don't get something from that game, then I do fear the worst. I guess as well against Manchester City, it's the manner of the defeat, because I think we're all sitting there expecting them to get beat. But if they go and get beat 5 or 6, then I think there's a real serious question mark around his future. But I think if he can kind of come out of that game with his pride intact and the team's put up a good performance and they haven't been too battered, then I think he'll survive till Leicester. But that's the game. You look at that Midlands derby. Leicester have no form whatsoever. They've had a really uninspiring transfer window as well. But it's a big job for Steven Gerrard today, going to Manchester City, trying to get something from that game. I think his team haven't helped him in terms of the team selection. I mean, I don't think he's played consecutive teams back-to-back. I don't think he's played the same team in 2 games straight in the Premier League, so that's not helped. But he's got a big job on his hand. And as I said, to hear the Aston Villa fans who don't usually get on the back of managers, to hear them booing him so early on in the season, that tells you that they're not happy at all.
Yeah, and it is only 5 games. But, Steven Gerrard has been speaking this week. He said, it's time to roll up our sleeves and fight. But there's more to it than that, isn't there, surely? Yeah, it's not all about rolling up your sleeves in this day and age.
No, there's not. But you've got to do that, though. That's a given anyway. That's the first and foremost. When you cross that white line, you've got to work hard and you've got to play for each other and run around, and then your quality will show. I'm in agreement with Bendy. I just think at the moment he doesn't know his best 11, and that's the problem. He keep chopping and changing, and Dawes will tell you as a defensive pairing, if you can't get a defensive pairing and you keep chopping and changing your centre halves, because one week is Chambers, then maybe it's Mings, and they miss Carlos. That's the big one. Carlos was their main signing, and unfortunately he's ruptured his Achilles. He's out for a long time, but he would have been a top signing. So.
Well, he was playing when they lost against Bournemouth.
Yeah, I know he was playing then, but that was one game. That's the first. That was the first game, and in the Premier League that can happen. They only lost 1-0, and it's been disappointing. But I agree with you, Jeff. The next 3, I won't worry about City, Leicester, Southampton, Leeds. They are the tough games. If he doesn't get points, then he's under huge pressure. Gerrard.
It's interesting, isn't it, Lee? Because look. He had success at Rangers, of course he has. He's 42 years old now, so he's not a kid. This is the first time as a manager he's experienced this sort of pressure. It's going to be interesting to see how he copes with it.
It's a big welcome to the Premier League, isn't it? Everyone wants to be a part of the Premier League. Everyone wants to be part of the best league in the world. So coming into a football club that's got, I think, stacks of potential. The owners speak for themselves. We're in the top 5 rich list. So you do feel that this is the big thing for me. And I had a brief chat with Steven Gerrard at the Bolton game about how things have changed. And, they looked at the expenditure. I'm not dropping names and stuff.
Drop a name there.
But no, I just wanted to figure out, why they hadn't brought players in. And I know that they brought a few in, but I'm not quite sure whether they backed him enough, to be honest, Jeff. And I say that quite loudly because I look at the team selection and it's pretty much the same team as last season. We're talking about Diego Carlos, and yes, the big injury. He was their marquee signing for the season. That was for sure. There's no doubt about that. And obviously he's suffered a bad injury. I'm looking at it now thinking, are them players performing for him? And this is where I say Villa Park's a horrible place to be at times. And you know yourself, Benty, when the fans get on the manager's backs, the players' backs, they go into shells. And I've noticed that last week. I noticed it. That was a game well worthy of them going and beating it. I'm not saying an average West Ham side, but weren't really at it. And I feel that the fans are brilliant. There's no doubt about that. But they expect more. They expect more at the football club. And I'm questioning the players. I'm questioning maybe the formation, the style that we're seeing at the minute. We're seeing the likes of John McGinn. He hasn't been the John McGinn of old. No. And he's playing in a different position. I think formation possibly might need to be tweaked. Defensively, just not been good enough for me. And that is the big standout by a million miles.
Has Coutinho become an issue as well, Michael?
Well, I think when you bring him in, when he came in last season, everyone was like, wow, Coutinho coming back, marquee signing, he's going to lift the quality. And he did that to an extent. But then when you bring him in the summer on a permanent basis, he's not started every game. Yes, he's had a few niggles. Wendy, they're very similar players. I think you've got Danny Ings, Watkins. Can they all play together? This has been the question, but I just think chopping and changing, certainly as a player that's just come out, I think you need a run of games, 4 or 5. You said as a centre-forward, Benny, earlier. I think as a centre-half, he's been forced with Diego Carlos getting injured. I just think he's under all kind of scrutiny. He's got players that he thinks, do I play? They're not playing to form. I just think you need to stick with a team and go, right, I'm going to back you to go and perform. I've put my faith in you group of players. Rather than chop and change, thinking one week it's Wendy, one day it's Ings, Watkins, Coutinho. I think it's hard, and he's going through probably his first experience of difficulties in the manager. It's not easy.
Do you not think when you're not winning football matches, that's why you change so much? Because when you're not winning, you're trying to get that right formula, and that's what's happening at the moment. I think that's why there's a lot of changes. We can be critical and say he's changing a lot, but he's trying to get that winning formula.
Of course, all he wants to be is successful. You know him as a player and as a manager, and he believes what I'm doing is the best. But whoever's playing, they're not winning one game against Everton. You think games that should have been winning as well.
You're right. It's about picking players, but you look at someone like Danny Ings, who scores a great goal against Everton. The following week against Crystal Palace, he's out the team. So you think if you're a centre forward and you're trying to build momentum, because playing in that role, it's about rhythm when you play centre forward, getting goals, because sometimes you might not be having the best of games, but something will fall to you and you'll score because you're in that kind of rich vein of form. But when you're in for one game, you score, then you're out again, and then you're playing wide if you're only Watkins and you play one down the middle. It's completely different. So I can't expect a centre forward to step up and take his opportunity, because he's thinking, well, if I score, I might be out the next week.
They've got to keep the faith with Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, of course.
We're talking about this. And I look at the game today, for me, Man City beat everyone. They're magnificent. But then the next run of games, which you guys, Leicester, Southampton, Leeds, after them 4 games with today, then you sit down and go, where could be a completely different spectrum. Of course it can.
But so I just wonder, in some respects, you know, is there too much expectation on the shoulders of Steven Gerrard just because he is Steven Gerrard?
Yeah, sometimes that does happen, doesn't it? I think because we think back to what a fantastic player he was. So often we then just say, well, the expectation is high for him to go in. He is a young manager. He is still learning. And I think, you know, the points that the guys have raised is perfect. It is consistency. I think when you're chopping and changing your side all the time, that is difficult. But he's trying to find what he thinks his best 11 is. And that's difficult when you're not picking up points, you're not winning games. And I agree as well that I think some of the players can perform better. The likes of Coutinho, one of the star players, we know what a brilliant player he is. He's not up to the heights. McGinn, who I think is a fantastic player, hasn't quite hit the heights that we've saw in previous seasons. So it is about getting that balance right, that consistency right. I watched them against Arsenal and they were poor in the first half. Arsenal could have been 4 or 5 up. Second half, I thought they were a little bit better. They got themselves back into the game. They equalised, and you think, go and try and either just keep that point or go and try and win it. And then they concede so soon after equalising. So they're little things that Steven Gerrard's trying to learn. Get the balance of the side right, get his best 11, and then you just hope that, you know, they can progress and keep developing. But the players need to step up as well.
It's interesting if you look at their percentage win rates, which could almost be misleading. At the moment, Steven Gerrard's percentage win rate is just marginally better than Tim Sherwood's when he was manager of Aston Villa. And where the heck is he now? Yeah.
So, Tim's on the phone. Tim's on the phone. He wants a word.
Yeah, I can imagine what that word will be as well. Look, what about Wolves? I mean, big spenders in the transfer window, really, with Nunes and Guedes and Kalazic, the huge centre forward, coming in. But I mean, it's interesting, Clinton. You know, that players who've gone, Cody's gone and Saiz has gone and Willy Bolly's gone and Dendoncker has gone. If you look back to when they got promotion in 2018...
That was the heartbeat.
Ruben Neves is the only survivor of that promotion team. Has there been too much change in terms of personnel and style too quickly?
Yeah, I think so. You could say that. And look, they've signed a lot of good players. Guedes, good player. Neves, the boy in midfield, very good player. So they have signed some good players. Ruben Neves, for me, is the outstanding player there at Wolves. I think everything goes for him. There was a lot of rumours of the big clubs. But they have changed. The big surprise was when Conor Cody left, Jeff, because not only his ability on the football pitch, but what he gives you, the talking and the organisation on that in that Wolves back line was fantastic, to be fair. So I was really disappointed when he left there, and obviously it's Everton. Everton have got him now, but it's going to take time. But it's the biggest problem. Wolves were like that last season. can't score goals. That is the big... They played the best football ever. Some of the football's outstanding, just can't score goals. It happened last week against Bournemouth, the first half against Tottenham, where they were the better team. Can't put the ball in there. Eventually, it will click. It will click together because they've got some outstanding players. They've still got the likes of Adama Traore, who's sitting on the bench and coming on and trying to make an impact. So their squad's brilliant, the likes of Neto. They have got good attacking options, Jeff, but they need to start winning football matches.
Yeah, well, they do, because Lee, I mean, look, the manager's asking for patience. They haven't won in 12 Premier League games. You know, not many managers survive that sort of winless run.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, you look at past seasons of where Wolves have actually come, really, and they've taken big strides. You know, potentially one of the best clubs in the Midlands, you know, you have to say, is that they moved up the table. They were going in the right direction. I'm with Clinton. I've seen them play some absolutely unbelievable football. When you're not scoring goals, you're not going to win games, and that's been their Achilles heel. And unfortunately, this is where the pressure's certainly going to mount. This season in particular, when I'm looking at teams who are going to be in the vicinity of that relegation zone, and if they don't start clicking and gelling, it's going to happen to Wolves.
I mean, Sue, if you look at their position at the moment, no win in 12 Premier League games. They play Southampton today. After that, they've got Liverpool away, Manchester City at home, West Ham away, and Chelsea away. From Bruno Lage's point of view, do you feel this is an absolutely 100% must-win game?
Absolutely, has to win the game, and it's difficult because I think Bruno Lage came in with, he is an attack-minded coach, so you then expected Wolves to be scoring a lot more goals than what they are, and that is the problem, as the guys have mentioned. They can't score goals, and they might be really creative, but in that final third, it's about making sure you put the ball in the back of the net. They've obviously brought in the big lad, their big centre forward, Kalajic, and they'll be hoping that he can do that because they've got quality in midfield, they've got quality out wide. Can he be the focal point? Because unfortunately, you know, Jimenez after his injury just hasn't quite hit the heights that we've seen before that injury, and you know that's really difficult for him and for Wolves as well. But they've changed the style. They've obviously gone to a back four because they thought that would make them more attack-minded, scoring more goals, sacrifice Conor Cody. But again, they just haven't done that. So I think this game is a must-win game because of, like you say, the games after that is going to be really difficult. But what a brilliant squad that they've got. And you just think if they do click, if that centre forward does start scoring goals, then what a side Wolves will be.
Yeah, I mean, they're very easy on the eye. There's no doubt about that, most of the time anyway. As far as Leicester are concerned, Michael Dawson booed off against Manchester United. Performance described in various places as dispiriting, struggling, unacceptable. Do you feel it's just a matter of time before Brendan Rodgers walks away?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I seen his press conference after the game saying he hadn't been backed, and I watched the game.
And this is not the same club it was a couple of years ago.
And it's not, Jeff. The proof's in the pudding. You see players going out the door where they've been from 16 winning the league and then winning the FA Cup to where they are today, bottom of the league. And the fans have never, ever been like that. They've been on a journey of success. They really, really have. Way overachieved. Brendan Rodgers doing a great job. But now you get to a point where you think they're only going backwards. Only. You lose Schmeichel. Big character. That was, for me, a big surprise at his age. Yeah, gone to France and 3-year contract, I think it is, at his age. Give him that. He's been there from the start of this journey, getting promoted, staying in the Premier League, then winning the Premier League, FA Cup. You need characters in your dressing room, and when that negativity gets in your football club, it's hard to change it. Wesley Fofana going out the door. You see Tielemans into his final year of his contract. That's been surrounding for too long, in my opinion. Either sign a contract or get rid of him, because it just brings the whole club and the fans for the first time against Manchester United. I've seen the worry. And Brendan, he looks absolutely shot to pieces, and think how successful I've been to where I'm going to this day. I think it's only a matter of time.
And I know everybody says they had an unsuccessful transfer window, Darren. I know that. But they kept Tielemans, and they kept Maddison, and they kept Harvey Barnes. So that's some respite for the fans. And I wonder if now that transfer window is closed, whether you'll see a change of mindset from players like that.
Potentially, because they know they can't go anywhere now until at least January. So I think if you look at Leicester's squad, and they've had a few injuries. Once they've all come back, they have still got a very, very good squad. Where their position is right now, they won't finish down there. They're better than that. But I think for Brendan Rodgers, he just looks like, and when you also talking there about his press conference, he looks like he's a man to me that wants to get the sack. And that sounds quite strange. Managers rarely walk away, but the way he's talking about, we needed help, I said that we needed help, and I didn't get the help, or we've not been the same club, or it's really, really hard to see your rival strengthening around you and you're not getting any help at all, and nothing's happening to us. That tells me that no manager wants to walk away. But you look at what Scott Parker did at Bournemouth with his comments, look what happened a couple of days later. Got fired.
But Benny, don't you think what we're talking about? Leicester, who have been, you know, potentially in Europe, they've won the Premier League.
It was never going to last, was it?
No, it was never going to last. But what I'm saying is, they have been in the mix of things for past seasons. They've took a backward step for me, because when we're talking about Tielemans, Barnes, you know, the younger players that they've got and they've still got at their peril. Why are they not building on that? I just don't understand it. I know Fofana was going to happen. It was always going to happen, but. You know, surely there's a plan in place, and you can see why Brendan's getting frustrated. He's got the same team as how long ago now? It's continued to be that same team.
But believe
Vardy's going to run out of legs
there is a plan in
eventually.
place, and the chairman, in his programme notes this week, outlined that plan. He said that for 5 straight summers, they had made investment without any significant sales. We could not risk unbalancing that equation further. Our plan is based on building the club to a level when they are less reliant on player trading. In other words, nothing's going to change soon. That's the plan, I think.
Well, I suppose that's what they need to get their head round then. And obviously, Brendan, if you're saying he's looking in that way that he looks like he wants to get out, I think when you're not getting that backing, if you like, and he wants to take the club, he wants to be successful, I think it's a matter of time before he will be leaving the football club.
Yeah. I mean, it's so successful. That's the point that we've got to make. You look at the Mahrez, Drinkwater, players that have gone out the door in the time when they've won all these. Kante, from winning the league to the FA Cup, they're everywhere. I was last year sitting here. Everyone's second favourite club. They loved what they'd done the way it was run, manager coming in, and then this is probably the first stumbling block that they've really gone. We aren't picking up results. The negativity around the club.
It kind of started creeping in last season because you think it was fifth, which is overachieving. Then 8th, but the way they started last season, it was almost like it was a crisis. But I think they're about where they should be. I think, well, not now bottom, but in terms of a football club.
I'm always loath to criticise Brendan because he's done an absolutely brilliant job. But you know, does he take some of the blame, Clinton? Because I'm looking at the team, for instance, he played against Manchester. He's got Ndidi, so a midfield player playing centre-back, while Sonchu, centre-back, sitting on the bench. No, he's got Luke Thomas playing, and Castagna, who offers much more attacking threat, not playing. Even when Vardy's way below form, and he has been this season, Kelechi Iheanacho does not get a sniff, or barely so.
No, I agree. The Thomas one, I understand why he's playing Thomas. Castagna's been given a chance at the start of the season. They haven't been winning football matches. He is a good player. I think Castagna's better when they play a wing-back. He went back to a back 4 the other night against Man United, so I think he feels Thomas is more solid as Soyuncu one. I've read a few comments that they're saying he's got a year left, Jeff. And he says if you don't train properly, then you're not going to be playing in my football team. So I don't know what's gone on there, but I agree with you, because when you've got a good defender like him, even though he didn't have a good year last year, he was really poor. He hasn't played for about a couple of years. He hasn't played well. So that's why I think he's making a statement of playing in Ndidi. They went and signed that centre-half. So I think Leicester will be fine, to be fair. They'll be fine. But I agree with you on Iheanacho. Iheanacho and Vardy, when they played together, they were causing problems. I'm surprised he's not played enough football.
Big games coming up for Brendan Rodgers, then Brighton away this weekend. And then, it's a massive game, isn't it? Leicester against Aston Villa. Absolutely enormous.